Hello and welcome to another Classic Golf Clubs. Before we get into the video, I need to explain the title, Tripe and Onions. This has got little to do with golf, so if you don't want to hear me prattling away, just jump ahead to... In fact, there's a lot of nonsense talked in this video, so here are some checkpoints if you don't want to watch the whole thing. When I picked the irons for this video, the title jumped into my head and a way to use it. Tripe and onions was once a popular meal in working class homes in the UK, but has since fallen out of favour. The onions part is simple, but not everyone might know what tripe is. Tripe is the stomach lining of any ruminant animal, typically cows, but other animals are included, which is then prepared or dressed for eating. Today we tend to turn our noses up at this nutritional food, and the most likely place you'll see it is in pet food. The word tripe can also be used to mean something that's silly or rubbish. So what has this got to do with golf? Today's irons are made by JH Onions, and I thought it would be funny to use Tripe and Onions as the title. As I didn't want to use a cow's stomach lining during the play of a few holes, I decided to use the alternative meaning for tripe, which is something that's a bit rubbish or worthless. And I picked some bottom end, or tripe, clubs to go with the onions. When you need to explain a joke, it's probably best not to bother with it, as it's unlikely to be funny. But hey, I never could tell a joke. Anyway, let's move on to the clubs. John Henry Onions became famous in golf circles for his patented Crookshank woods, but also used the same concept for irons and putters. We'll go into more detail in this after we've looked at today's clubs.
I'm going to start with the irons today for a change, as they're really the main point of interest of this video. And let's pick one of those up and have a look at some of the key features of this particular club. If we start on the back, we can see there Crookshank VII, JH Onions, who's the designer, and Kenilworth, England. Kenilworth is a town in Warwickshire, in the centre of England, and there we've got the I presume the trademark JHO, JH Onions. Spin it round to the bottom, we can see the club number, stainless, and the first interesting feature that we notice is a bore through hosel, the same as the Wilson fluid fields that were around at this time. These clubs, as I say, date from 1966, is the earliest I've seen for them. As I hold it in the light here, we can also see that the clubs are very marked, and that's not just that this one has led a very hard life, but most of the examples of these clubs I've seen, they are very dented. I think this is a very soft stainless steel. 99.9% certain that these clubs are cast, so unlike the later pin clubs, which are very hard, these used a very soft stainless steel, which I suppose you could argue would give you a good feel, and the clubs do feel very nice when you hit them out the middle. Another interesting feature here, we've got a very short short ferrule, nice colour scheme there, black, yellow, red, yellow, black, and around the stamped in the around the hosel there, it says worldwide patents. I think it says worldwide. Let me just check that. No, just world patents. And very lightly there, I've just noticed. I'll bring that right up to the camera and hopefully I can get it to focus. I can just about make out D3, which I would guess would be the swing weight. Interesting what you find when you're looking close. Then the main feature of these clubs, which sets them apart from just about any other iron, is if we hold it this way, we can see that there is a bend in the shaft there. And this is following JH Onions' concept that he introduced with the woods of the time. But there is a distinct bend there. Hopefully you can see that if I hold the club vertically there, you can see a bend taking place at this point. In fact, it would be easier to show that if I got a couple of clubs in the set that are missing the ferrules, so let me just get one of those. Here we go. So we can see there the bend takes place just above where the ferrule is, and it's very easy to see on that one that we've got a distinct bend in the shaft. I've measured the bend and it's about 4 to 5 degrees. So when the clubs were being manufactured, they would have to allow for that additional bend, because that's going to affect the loft of the club. In effect, what we're doing is that would be the normal angle, but we're then bending it, so we're in effect strengthening the loft of the club. So these heads would need to be produced with 4 degrees less loft than they would have had, or they were designed to have, so that when they were fitted to this bent shaft, that 4 degrees would come back into play. And I have measured the lofts on these, which you can see when we go through the lofts table as usual, and they are pretty much as you'd expect for clubs of this date, 1966. And coming back to this one, I think I've said all I can say about the head now. Just a standard face, grooves with cross or plus signs boxing the grooves in. If we look at the shaft, shaft label is completely obliterated on that one. Let me see if I can find a better one. Yeah, that one's legible, and it's unusual colour scheme, but it says True Temper Pro Fit. So that's the 1960s True Temper style of shaft band, just an unusual colour. The grips on these, I'm assuming these have been replaced at some time. They're a chamois grip. Some people don't like these. I find that they seem to last very well compared to such as the Victory Green. These are still quite playable, quite soft, and very good grip on them. So I think they're a pretty good grip. Normally the sand iron will be a different design to the rest of the set, but this one is pretty much the same. Slightly thicker sole, compare it to the pitching wedge, and which one was that, the 7 iron. As usual, we've got that progression. The sole gets broader as we go down the clubs, but the actual back of the club is the same design as the rest of the clubs. I did mention the similarity to Wilson with the fluid feel style bore through hosel with a plug, black plug in this case, and it's also similar in some ways to the sort of the Dynapower bar that goes across the back. Well, these are quite a good weight at the sole of the club. If I turn these round, we can see even on the 4 iron, which is this one, it's got a lot of bottom weight there. So they're a nice, easy club to get the ball airborne. Right, I think that's covered everything I've got to say on those. Very interesting set, and it'll be nice to see how they perform on the course. Okay, the woods then. I cruelly refer to these as being the tripe part of the tripe and onions in the video title. They're not tripe at all really, they're just budget end clubs, perfectly playable, and I've got no qualms at all about using this sort of laminated budget end club. I apologise for the steel headed one in there. We'll talk about that one in a moment, but let's start with the driver, or the 1 wood. Hopefully everybody will be able to recognise by now this is a laminated club. We can see the stripes of the layers of the different wood there. It's got an insert, a black insert, and white pins in there. They're not screws, they're just a plastic pin which give the appearance of screws. Why they wouldn't use screws, I don't know. On the top it says Jaguar, and anybody that is familiar with this particular budget club maker might recognise the name of Jaguar, and the club is by, spin that round so we can see that, HB&S, Aldridge, England, Harold Bird and Son, very big maker of starter clubs, shall we call them. Nice brass I think it's brass. Unusual for a one wood, maybe because the laminated head wasn't very heavy. There's no additional back weight or anything in there, so it just looks like they've got a brass sole plate on there. Shaft on this one is an HB&S own shaft label. Who made the shaft? I've no idea, but it looks like a regular flex. We can just make out the R there. And the grip, there's the grip. It's an Avon grip, good condition, perfectly playable. Right, coming on to the, the steel head. I thought it would be worthwhile including some of these. They are starting to get to the classic club stage now, the very early ones. Some people might say I'm stretching things a bit there, but I think they are becoming collectible. This one, I doubt whether many people would recognise it unless they owned one. We've got a bit of a stars and stripes almost effect going on the crown there, and this is a plastic insert in here. One of the problems with the early steel woods was that the steel was heavy, and the head size, because of that, turned out to be smaller than the head size of a wooden wood, which wasn't a great advantage, as we know now with the 460cc drivers. This one's actually a 3 wood, and if I spin it round, you'll see the name there. It's a Petron Impala model, 3 wood, and it's the Mark III. And we've got loft marked on there of 16 degrees. Petron was a club that grew phenomenally in the, I think, 1970s, 1980s. It was formed by, I forget the names now. I'll bring the names up here. Peter Shanks and Ron somebody, I think it was, or Peter somebody and Ron Shanks, I can't remember. We've got 2 brass screws in there holding, I assume, the polymer centre part there. And as I say, this polymer part reduced the weight of the club, allowing for, I guess we've got perimeter weight in here. We've got steel at the toe and the heel, so quite a clever bit of a design there. On the face we've got, it's just a plain steel face, but it's got an insert effect there. No ferrule, and the shaft on this one, and that's what's left of the sticker, completely illegible. And the grip still in good condition, and it's another Avon, nothing else apart from that. So there we go, that's the 2 woods that I'll be using, a 1 wood and a 3 wood. And to finish things off, we've got the putter. Again, a very basic budget end putter, sort of a bullseye style, a little bit of a heel weighting, plain or simple ferrule with a blue band. That would normally indicate to me that this was a ladies' club, although this one is a standard length, and I don't think it is a ladies' club, as I'll explain in a moment. If we look at the grip, we can see that that's got blue fill in there as well. We can also see it's a Dunlop grip, so Dunlop blue, might be giving it away a little bit there. The shaft is a Dunlop Power Flow medium flex, so Dunlop and blue. This can only be a blue flash, Dunlop Blueflash. There we go, which was Dunlop's cheapest range of clubs. Many people started with the Blueflash range, and there we go. Again, I'm cruelly labelling that as the tripe part of the Tripe and Onions video, but perfectly usable putter. Find the sweet spot and it's as good as any other. Oh, that concludes the clubs.
As I've already said, there's not a lot of information to be found about JH Onions on the internet, but I'll share what I've found so far. This is an advert from Golf World magazine from June 1966, and as you can see, it doesn't really tell us a lot. The first patent I've been able to find was a UK patent from 1961, and the Crookshank name was registered as a trade name in the US also in 1961. The patent describes head material as being possibly made from persimmon, laminate, polymer and even metal, Well, I've seen the first three. I'm yet to see a metal version. Also interesting was this second patent I found, which is for a large soled club to prevent taking a divot. I've not actually seen any evidence of these having been produced though, so it was maybe just a patent that didn't go anywhere. Let's now quickly look at what the Crookshank wood patent was trying to achieve. We can see here how the centre line of the shaft is quite a way behind the leading edge of the wood because of the need to have a strong neck on the wood. By angling the shaft backwards, as shown here, the neck is also angled, and so the face of the wood becomes more in line with the shaft, which was claimed to make it easier to hit the ball, particularly for higher handicap golfers. Here we have an advert from 1966 for the Crookshank VII irons as featured in the video. While I can see the logic behind the woods, I think that stretching the concept to the irons was more trying to cash in on the idea than any worthwhile gain for the golfer. It's very easy to design an iron with either positive or negative offset as required, so achieving this by bending the shaft a few degrees just seems to add an unnecessary complication, in my view anyway. Coming back to the JH Onions company, business went well in the early years, and in 1965 Michael Nightingale joined the company as sales director before taking over completely when Onions retired from the business in 1970. Nightingale had previously been selling computers, but he soon developed into a craftsman when it came to making clubs. Unfortunately, he wasn't a good businessman and failed to advertise the company at all from the early 1970s, happy to make a small number of clubs for devoted followers, and so the company dwindled into obscurity. But then in 1983 came a twist to the tale when Nightingale played a game of golf with a distant relative, Matthew Mockridge, who was 24 at the time and making strides in business of his own, having graduated from Edinburgh University. But Mockridge wasn't happy in his job and wanted to work for himself. He was impressed with the set of woods that Nightingale had made for him and ended up buying the company, with Nightingale staying on in a consultant capacity. Mockridge set up shop in the garage of his parents' house in West Sussex and was trained by Nightingale for 6 months. And then in April 1984 they began to advertise again, and slowly the business began to grow, focusing on custom-made woods and a small number of putters. The irons were dropped from the range. I found this information on what appears to be the final episode in the Crookshank story in the April 1985 edition of Golf World magazine, which also had a section on the increasing number of metal woods on offer. So sadly, this valiant effort to revitalise the company seems to have been undermined by the burgeoning sales of metal woods. Okay, time to get out on the course now, so as usual, here are the lofts of the clubs. As you can see from the irons, the lofts are fairly variable. Some are very close and some have got quite big gaps. And the sandwich is 52 degrees, which is a bit stronger than I'd prefer. For a change, I'm starting the video on the first hole, which I don't normally include because of people standing around. But there wasn't anybody here today, so I filmed my opening tee shot, which was with the Petron 3 wood, and it was a nice shot straight down the middle, about 185 yards, which left me this 8 iron. It's a little bit right, but it found the right side of the green. So here I am with a 2-putt needed for a par. A little bit cautious with that first putt. Oh, and a lip out. Opening with a 3-putt, not what I had in mind. But on to the next hole, which is my normal starting hole. That was a reasonably struck 7 iron just down the left side to the back corner. The flag was at the front though, which wasn't ideal. I pulled that tee shot a bit, which has left me quite a long putt,
see if I can make this one in two. Nearly made it in one. Hit the flag, that pace, and just stopped a couple of feet away. So that's a par. Harold Bird and Son, 1 wood. Drive's gone 211, it's left me 289 and about 150 to carry the second left bunker there, so I'm going to try and hit a 5 iron over that.
I pulled that shot a little bit, but it cleared the bunker and it left me in the rough here down the left, and I caught the shot a little bit heavy and it came up short. Little chip there, my usual lack of confidence means it came up short. Decent to hit with a putt on that one. And hold it out for the bogey.
Scary looking sky. I should hit the 3 wood, but it's the Petron steel, so I'm going to go with the Onions 3 iron. Too bad.
I was left with 160 yards and I hit a 6 iron. Caught it well, just a little bit left. But safely on the green, a little way away from the flag. Nice looking first putt, but it just trailed away at the end to the right. Should still be an easy putt for the par though, taking care. Another one that just catches the edge and doesn't drop.
Sorry Dean, another 3 putt. I think this will be the last hole. Par 3 into the light, so I've got my reservations about whether shot tracer will manage to pick the ball up. Hitting a 7 iron, just over 140 yards.
I caught this one so heavy that I sprayed soil and grass everywhere, including on my glasses.
It was a JCB shot tracer, it might have got that one. A little bit on the heavy side, let's say. I can't even say it was a good layup because I'm in the rough and I'm still 60, or just under 60 yards to go. Sand iron. Safely over. Another chance to demonstrate my wizard short game. I'm hitting a 9 iron. It's not too bad, that one. After all that, come off with a bogey.
Summarising the 5 holes filmed then, I was 4 over par, which is about my handicap. Very pleased with the fairways hit at 100%. 2 greens in reg. The 11 putts was a bit of a disappointment, particularly with 2 3-putts, but room for improvement there. Well, I seem to have produced another very long video, so if you've managed to stay with it for this long, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.